This conference is being recorded.
Hi, everyone. This is Karen Curry, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the teleconference call this evening on positioning yourself as an expert in your field. I know I'm so excited to hear what Beth has to say about that topic. My name is Karen Curry, and I'm Director of Community Relations with Caring Mission Home Care and TCM Home Health. Caring Mission provides non-medical private duty services in the privacy of your home to help seniors and the elderly stay safe in their home. And when families are faced with a parent or a spouse who find it difficult to stay in their home or to leave their home to go to a medical appointment, TCM then takes over and provides the medical services in the home, such as nursing and physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and we provide these services in Washington, Allegheny, Fayette, and Westmoreland counties. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our host for the evening, Beth Caldwell. Beth owns her own public relations firm in Greentree. She specializes in working with small business owners, nonprofit organizations, and entrepreneurs. She's a 40 under 40 winner. She's been recognized in Pittsburgh Magazine. Beth also is a founder of Pittsburgh Professional Women, and she's won numerous community and business awards, and is also the author of I Wish I'd Known That, Secrets to Success in Business. Her passion is to empower and inspire business owners, and I am so excited, Beth, to hear what you are going to tell us about how we can empower ourselves and inspire folks that are looking into our businesses and look at us as an expert in our field. So I'm going to go ahead and let Beth take over now, and let's just sit back and enjoy this.
Well, thank you, Karen. You know, it was just 2 weeks ago that we were all together talking about LinkedIn and Facebook. And in that class, we talked about a little bit about, using social networking as one way that you can position yourself as an expert. And when I say expert in your field, I'm talking about lots more than farmers. It's not just farmers that want to be experts in their fields. We want everybody to really single themselves out as an expert in the field. And the reason is because, one, the Internet has just been tremendous for allowing us to market our businesses. But it's also brought out all the competition as well. And sometimes people are overwhelmed with how do I choose someone. So positioning yourself as an expert, pulling out what you're an expert at, in one way that can make you, one reason you do it is to make you irresistible to do business with. Does that sound good to anybody here? You want to make it like the no-brainer to do business with her. But also, as you become an expert in your field, you now become someone that the media can call on when they need an expert to give them input for a news story. So that sounds really good too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So people, it's overwhelming. And I find in the public relations field, even for myself, it's so hard to pick out all the things that are wonderful about you. Women especially, but women and men both, we're just not good at talking about how great we are. That's why we have other people introduce us, because, you just don't do that. I'm thinking, wow, this lady's really something, right? But it's difficult for us to do it for ourselves. So sometimes I have to pull this out of my clients because it doesn't come natural for us to tell people why we're so great. But when you do figure out, and I'm going to tell you how you can figure out what you're great at. When you do figure that out, and when you position yourself that way, you're not really becoming a salesperson. You're not really selling yourself as much as you're letting people know who you work with, and you're making it easy for them to choose you. Plus, that's a great bonus, but plus cutting yourself out for the media in that niche as knowing what you know about in your field and why you're the best person in your field to work with just makes it really super easy for them to call on you too. And I'm going to give you some tips tonight that makes it really easy for the media to use your information and to access it quickly. So I'm going to tell you there's more than one way to become an expert. And I have written some notes up today. Let me see, how many do I have? I have 6 ways that you can become, position yourself as an expert. Okay, now if you have a field, some of us work in fields, like, for example, I'll use you, Karen, Karen Curry with the Caring Mission. She works in the field of senior care, but I know Karen, and there are a lot of things that she does. How do you pick from that and choose from that what you want to put out there? Because, of course, we want any customer, any client that really is a good fit with us. And when you offer a variety of services, that can be tough. One thing that I can say is to think about what people thank you for. What do people recognize you for? Let me just make it even more simple than using Karen, because in Karen's field, not all of us have had the experience of using a Caring Mission type of a service. But I think most of us have either used a travel agent or we know what a travel agent is, right? And a travel agent is somebody that helps you with your vacations. And let's face it, a vacation for one person might be, 5 days in Cancun. For somebody else, it might be a fishing trip to Canada. For somebody else, it might be a trip to Greece. Vacations are pretty much, they come in every form, shape, and size. When I work with a travel agent, I say, what kind of clients do you work with? Well, anybody that wants to travel. Well, obviously, but who do you like to work with? Well, anybody that has $5,000 might be the next thing that they say. And I'll be, let's really narrow this down. We don't want it to be just anybody. And so what you find is a travel agent may say to me, well, you know what? I really love to plan honeymoons. I really enjoy planning destination weddings. That's my favorite thing to do. Well, great. And what happens is sometimes when a travel agent gets into that, well, she plans one honeymoon, and then what? That bride had 4 bridesmaids, and then those 4 get married, and they begin to refer her on, and she begins to develop herself a niche. Now, let's say that bride 5 years later has 2 kids and wants to go to Disney World. Certainly that travel agent can handle that trip, and she certainly will, but she has created a huge client base by positioning herself as an expert as a honeymoon. And those of you who are in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you know that I'm talking about my client, Lynn Ciccarelli with Bella Vacations. Lynn loves to plan exclusive trips, honeymoons or not. But by picking her out as a honeymoon expert, we actually got her on the NBC Today Show. She was asked to submit a honeymoon for the Today Show Throws a Wedding, because we put a lot of stuff on her website about what she knows about honeymoons and a lot of testimonials about honeymoons that she had done. We made her look like a honeymoon expert, and she certainly was a honeymoon expert. So if you are one of those people that have several things that you offer, think about the most favorite thing that you do in your business, and that's where you begin. Does that make sense?
It does, Beth. And also, I guess what you're trying to say, not only what people thank you for, but if I can ask this question, also what part of your business that really lights you up and that you have passion about, because that passion then again flows to the folks that you're dealing with, and they feel that and they know that you really enjoy what you do. Not only are you an expert at what you do, but you enjoy what you do also. Do you agree?
I think that's a great point, Karen. For example, all of us have a lot of things that we do in our job. And when you come into work in the morning and you look at your to-do list, and you might have 7 or 8 things on your to-do list, what's the one thing that you can't wait to get to? For those of you who know me, I love my Pittsburgh Professional Women group, and I might have 15 things to do on my list. And if there's something on there to do for Pittsburgh Professional Women, even though that might not be the thing that is making my income or doing the paycheck, that's my favorite thing to do, and that's what I love to do. So, but please do it with what you're gaining an income on, okay? And that's another great way. And usually you'll find often that those 2 things are the same. The thing that you love to do is the thing that you get the most fun. But that's a great point. Okay, one way to become an expert, the most common way to become an expert is pretty simple, and that's getting those initials after your name, education and certifications. For some of us, it is absolutely required to have a certification or an education or a degree. Obviously, a registered nurse, an attorney at law, they cannot practice in their field until they've had their degree, and in some cases have taken tests and boards and certifications. That's an automatic thing. Many of us have those certifications and go on to do another field in healthcare or in law, And that's just a little extra credential that we have. If you do not have initials after your name, for example, I am not an accredited public relations person. I did not go to college for public relations. I don't have that, but I'm able to still become an expert by using other ways to do that. But getting that education and certification credentials, those are some things that are absolutely required, and they're a nice bonus. If you have credentials, please use them. Some people think that that's arrogant, and it is not arrogant. I think it shows that you're diligent about who you are and what's important to you. And certainly I bet almost none of us on the call tonight are doing for a living what we went to school for, but what we went to school for has become a part of who we are. So if you have education and certifications, absolutely list these things in your bio. If you do have initials after your name, list them. And in some cases, that's all you need to work. To be an attorney or to be a CPA, to be a registered nurse, you need that. And then in some cases, you need some continuing education. But you frankly do not have to prove yourself any further than the fact that you have that degree. But if we want to talk about being competitive and gaining more of that market share, we're going to go just a little further than that, okay? Educations and certifications, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions that you can think of on that, Karen?
No, not really. I think like you said, it does speak for itself. And maybe in your field, there may be even something that you don't realize. So maybe try to find that information. Look that up. Talk to other professionals in your field and see maybe what they're doing that you may not even realize, maybe some type of certification that might position yourself as an expert.
Yeah, that's a good idea, too. There are organizations popping up all over the place that will endorse you or accredit you in a variety of fields. That's good. Now, number 2, if any of you have attended any of my workshops, like the Client Attraction Workshop or the LinkedIn Workshop, this is something that I talk about with all of my clients, and that is positioning yourself as an expert by becoming a resource for your ideal client. Figuring out who your ideal client is so key to your success, because when you know who it is that you want to work with, then you become a resource for them. You become that light in the tunnel, the person that, whatever's keeping them up at night, whatever they're worrying about, you're the little beacon of hope. You're the one who has the answer. You want to be the resource. So you want to be the person that somebody says, oh my gosh, if you need information on public relations, you definitely want to call her. Or if you need information on getting your business certified as a women-owned business or getting it becoming incorporated or LLC, this is who you want to call. She is the woman to know for that. So how you get to become that is obviously by giving some services and giving some resources. For example, tonight is a resource. I'm sharing with you some knowledge that I've learned through my business. So what knowledge do you have in your business that you can use to be a resource? Some of you have gone to great efforts to educate yourself to offer a fabulous service. Don't hide that information, okay? And how you can become a resource, there's so many ways you can do it. You can use written information. Before, I would say 5 years, written information would be an article in a newsletter. Written information would be like an article maybe in a Chamber of Commerce newsletter or even like a community magazine or a community newspaper. And I just turned the chimes off so we don't have to listen to those. So anyway, written information, and if people then, when I say to people that I want them to write something to position themselves as an expert, they're like, oh my goodness, I can't write. But you know what you can do? Think about the things that you're giving advice to all the time. Karen, in your case, for example, you're going in and talking to families that might be getting ready to think about having extra care in their home, which is a really personal thing, and that's a big step for them. So you might be meeting with them before you're ready. You can give them some tips. You know what? Here's what I found. I've worked with over 500 families in Western Pennsylvania in our agency, and here's what we find really, really works. Maybe 3 or 5 or 10 tips when you're getting ready to have care in your home for the first time, or 7 signs that you need to have additional care in your home. completely free information, just very, very helpful. And these are things that you're most likely already verbalizing over and over and over again. If you find yourself answering the same questions over and over and over again, those are things that obviously people really need to know. They're very curious about it. It may not be easy to access. They have to come to an expert to find out about it. So tip sheets are awesome. Tip sheets are great because you can put them on your newsletter, in your newsletter, and on your website. And if you can imagine a print magazine or an online magazine, there are so many of them now. Not to mention the radio, the website radio, and the television shows. But my goodness, we have hundreds of television stations running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of times they're really hungry for content. How many times can we see Ben Roethlisberger give that statement? On these 24-hour-a-day stations, they're hungry for content. So if you're somebody who can give really quality tips on a subject and have it very accessible on your websites, along with things like that I talk about that you need to have, like your professional picture and your title and all those kind of things that a media professional can grab and easily pull into an article. You just never know when you're going to get picked up. So think about the things that people ask you all the time, the questions that you answer all the time. Turn it into some kind of tip sheet. That's a very simple way to have a written piece of material that you can use. You can also do a recorded information, just like Karen and I are doing this evening. If you have something that I know we were talking to a bookkeeper on the phone. Gail Bear's on the phone, and she's a bookkeeper, and she specializes in very small businesses and people who only need like five or less hours of bookkeeping a week. That's a niche client. Obviously, it's not going to be the large nonprofit or the college or university or the big real estate agency. That's not who she's looking to work with. But the people that she's looking to work with, she knows who they are. She probably gets 10 or 12 frequently asked questions. She could turn those right into a tip sheet or an article. Or she could get on the phone with a fellow networking buddy or a fellow colleague and just have that person ask her these questions, and she answer them into a little recording, which then becomes a downloadable resource that can be on our website. And I think when you're in a business that's very personal, bookkeeping is really personal because you know the balance on their bank book, and that's personal information. And I think when you're involved very personal like that, it's important that they see your face and hear your voice and know what type of person you are and know that they would feel comfortable working with you. So a recorded thing, it's easier than ever. You don't even have to pay for recordings anymore. Speaking in public is a fantastic way to do it. We have, just in Western Pennsylvania, and I know we have people listening all over the country, we have networking groups, we have chambers of commerce, we have business resources. Almost every large college or university has a business development center. It's not so difficult now to get a brief speaking engagement if you're offering great information. Not sales information, but really good, helpful information to businesses. Get yourself some speaking gigs. You don't have to do tons and tons of them, but maybe 3 or 4 a year. And it's really important that after you do that, you kind of record that you did it, or you have somewhere on your website or on your calendar of events, that you'll be speaking and where you'll be speaking. Because when potential clients come to check you out, and they say, well, gee, she's speaking at the library, she's speaking at the Small Business Development Center, she's speaking for the Chamber of Commerce. Clearly she's very credible and she knows what she's doing. So speak in public. Do that. We also talked about, doing the tip sheets. I am a tremendous fan of doing a newsletter, and depending on who your client base is, an email newsletter is obviously the most popular, most affordable thing that you can do right now, least expensive and most effective thing that you can do to promote yourself and your business. But also depending on your business, if you're in the medical profession and people are coming into a medical office, clearly you're going to need a printed newsletter too, something that's in your waiting room or available for your clients. Real estate agents too. Real estate agents, it's very important for them to have an email newsletter because it's easily forwarded. But it's important when they have their open houses that people who are walking in can pick up that and take home some great tips and your contact information as well. The last thing I want to say about becoming a resource is hosting events. You can host events in so many different ways. Let me go back to my travel agent. One of the first things that I did with her was we hosted, when we decided that we wanted to position her as an expert in the honeymoon business, we got together with a wedding planner, and we planned plan your wedding on a shoestring budget. It was right at the beginning of the recession. The wedding business, everybody put their brakes on their big glamorous wedding for about 15 minutes. It didn't last too long. You know how weddings never really go out of business. But there was a little bit of a panic in the country about 2.5 years ago. And we planned a free event, and we wrote press releases, and they went to the newspapers. And you know what? They even got on television, on our local television news morning magazine show, talking about how to planning your wedding. The wedding planner talked about budget-friendly ways to plan a wedding, and then the honeymoon person talked about ways that you could have a fabulous honeymoon but still save money. This was fantastic for them. They had over 60 people show up. They both got a really nice bit of business from it, but they also got a lot of publicity and a lot of people on their mailing lists because they were doing it. It didn't cost them anything but their time, and they really got a big return on it. So one thing you can do is host a public event. Another thing that you could do is maybe host a networking evening or a wine and cheese evening, an open house. You could host a fundraising event. If you're going to host a fundraising event, I really want to encourage you to make it be something complementary with what you do. Let me see if I can think of something off the top of my head here. Well, obviously, some of you in the healthcare profession could team up with a hospice and do a fundraiser for the hospice. Have a wine and cheese. If you have an office, have that be an open house. So let's say if you are, let me use Gail again as the bookkeeper. If you're a bookkeeper, I don't really want to see you doing a fundraiser for like a rugby team. Okay, if I can be really out of the ordinary there. I'd rather see you do something for education or young entrepreneurs, or maybe math or reading, or something maybe for new businesses, or even professional women, or a scholarship thing, something that really aligns itself with your business. You want to keep it in the same range so that the people you're inviting to your events, it's going to make sense for your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We did that when we hosted our event last fall, and it was mainly for caregivers and for women in business, and we just did a celebration of caregivers in general. And we fundraised. All the proceeds went to the Black Pants Project, which is to help women who are reentering the workforce that don't fit those minimum qualifications. So sometimes, it wasn't healthcare related, but we can all relate to the economy and what's going on with the economy, and let's try to benefit some of these women. And truly,
most of your clients, most of the people that make the final decision about using you are going to be women. And with women, it's kind of easy. It is kind of easy to find, a fundraiser that women identify with, because we're so that way. But you can understand, like, it wouldn't have made sense for you to. I'm just picking the rugby team because it's so extreme. It wouldn't have made sense for you to raise money for a rugby team. Like, that wouldn't have fit, right?
No,
it's good that you keep it in with whoever your ideal person is. So,
I think we'll face questions.
Yeah. So, or what did I hear? Oh my goodness! Do you know what I heard on the radio today? I couldn't believe this. That the Pittsburgh Pirates were asking for donations from people who bought tickets. And I thought,
no.
I feel sorry for these people who are outside of Pittsburgh, because I'm really keeping it local, because there are a lot of local people on the call. But it's like, are you kidding me? Like, if I catch any of you doing a fundraiser for them, that is a big no-no for your business. Okay, they don't need any help. We have lots of people who legitimately need help. But I thought that was really funny when I heard that today. So, okay, so that is number 2. So we've covered number 1, which is education and certifications, and then number 2, becoming a resource for your ideal client, thinking of who that perfect client is for you. Think of what keeps them up at night. What is worrying them? What can you take off their hands and take that worry away from them? What is your bright, shining light resource to that ideal client? And that's what you want to nail. You want to nail that, becoming a resource for that. Okay, number 3 is to be featured in the news. Now everybody's like, oh yeah, that sounds easy. How does that happen? Well, you know what? If you plan ahead and you have all your ducks in a row, it's not too difficult to get featured in the news because more than ever, there are more radio stations, more television stations, more magazines online and in print, newsletters. There are so many things that people need really quality content for. Okay? How does the media make a living? They make a living by selling advertising. And they sell advertising when they're able to provide quality content to their readers, to their specific demographic. All right, so let's talk about being featured in the news. And I have to be really quick on this so that we are able to get everything. Before you can get featured in the news, there are a couple things you need. You need a professional headshot. You need a professional bio or introduction, a couple of paragraphs to say who you are, why you're an expert. You probably should have a website where people can find you. And you need to let them know why you would be featured. Okay? And let's go outside of Pittsburgh for a moment and take somebody who's been in the news quite frequently, although some other things have happened which have been nice because it's taken the heat off of him. But I think everybody has heard of Tiger Woods and what happened to Tiger Woods. And wasn't that crazy how much that was on? I mean, it was everywhere. It was in every magazine. It was on every TV station. It was on Yahoo, at Google, at MSN, and AOL. It was everywhere. Why, when the press can't keep saying the same thing over and over and over again, they have to go off into other directions like, well, what if this would happen? And what if that would happen? And what if she decides to do this? And what if he decides to do this? And they start to go into these speculative places. And when they begin to go off in speculation, they can't just speculate. They need expert testimonial. So in the case of, a celebrity committing adultery, what kind of things can you do? Well, obviously you can get financial planners, financial experts to talk about the money. You can get attorneys that specialize in divorce. You can, one thing that I think a lot of people didn't think about at first was they got some psychologists and psychiatrists to talk about, what is the effect on the wife? What is the effect on the husband? What's the effect on the kids? What's the effect on the neighborhood? What's the effect on the golfers? I mean, they just went down every single avenue that they could think of because nobody was giving them any new stuff to talk about. So when you think of all of these things, let's just think about, in the beginning we talked about being an attorney. Well, when they looked for an attorney to comment on this, was it just the attorney who just had the credentials from his Harvard Law College? No, it was somebody who positioned themselves as an expert, probably not in divorce, but probably in, the divorce of the wealthy, or women in divorce, or celebrities in divorce, or athletes getting a divorce. They really niched themselves down, and that was how they were able to get themselves on TV or on the news or wherever. But it wasn't just in the hometown of where Tiger Woods was in Florida. They had in every city across the United States, they were asking local experts. Okay? So think about that. When the news comes up and it's something that you can comment on, you be ready to shoot your comment out and make yourself available. Okay? So that's how you can get featured in the news. And you know what? That could be an entire workshop. So I'm just going to touch on that lightly. So that is number 3, be featured in the news. Any questions, Karen? Any thoughts?
Well, the only thing, are there certain, being featured in the news and maybe looking at what's going on, but is there certain avenues, like I know you had mentioned before in a workshop that I've seen, maybe that there's folks out there in the news that are looking at YouTube often, and maybe if you got some really good content on there, or you talk about something that you've done in the community or your company has, are there certain areas that are better that they're going to pull from and maybe see something that you've done and then come to you to talk about that story?
Well, you know what? That's true, and I do say that. And you know what? We probably might want to change the word news now to media, because news isn't just, the 5 o'clock news anymore. What you want to do, so obviously putting yourself out there in a lot of these ways and making it easy to be featured in the media. I'm going to say in the media instead of the news. One of the ways that you can do that is, like, remember we talked before about, you just mentioned YouTube, or we also call it viral video, a video, whether it's YouTube or another type of video that you have on your website, that's really helpful because it gives information, and it most likely also gives video of you speaking, which begins that personal relationship. But when you have yourself speaking, either recorded or in video, if it's a television show or a radio show, that's a really good thing to have, because now they know that you can speak well, that you speak clearly, and that you don't have a regional accent, that you're clearly easily to understand, and that you seem to know what you're talking about. That's a good reason for that. Another thing is, too, not even just thinking about the media, but I had said earlier before about magazines that have space to fill. So, suppose that you wrote an article about, let's just go back. Let's talk about you, Karen. One thing that you could write an article about that would be very helpful. That maybe if you came to somebody's house, they were thinking about hiring you, and maybe they're never going to hire you, or maybe they're going to hire you tomorrow. Either way, an article that would be really helpful then would be like making your house safe, or redoing your house. When someone comes home from the hospital and maybe they're in a walker or they have medical equipment, suddenly the furniture needs to be repositioned. Rugs need to be moved off the floor. You might need to have safety things. I mean, you can probably right now think of 10 to 15 things that can make a home adaptable after somebody has come home from surgery. That would be a really helpful tip sheet article, newsletter article that you can leave with every one of your clients. Have on your newsletter, on your website, and in your newsletter. And suppose that somebody gets an assignment for, let's say, Parkinson's Awareness Month, and they say, we need an article. And the guy's like, what am I going to write an article? And they're just Googling around, and they're looking around, and they come across yours. What they find then is they write an article, and they can say, well, Karen Curry from the Caring Mission says, all families should have this, a bar installed in their shower. I have a friend, Nancy Scott, who's in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, who's a professional organizer, and she got put into the Pittsburgh Magazine that way, just simply by something that she had said, and they quoted her. So, having things out there that can be pulled as quotes. Reporters, especially print reporters, like to pull that in. They don't just like to write an article that's all about them. They like to pull in quotes from several different people. In fact, Lisa Spar, who is from Washington, D.C., and also works in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, she was just quoted on CNN on their money page about how to ask for more money. You know what? That was something from her blog that she had put up some time ago that just got pulled out by a reporter that was looking for that information. So that's just a little bit more in depth of all different kinds of ways that they can find you. Mm-hmm. You don't want to just do one thing. We want to do several things. Okay? So that is number 3, be featured in the news. The next one is number 4, and that is write about your expertise. Now, previously we talked about writing articles, writing tip sheets. What I'm talking about here is writing a book or a booklet or some kind of a resource guide, something just a little bit more substantial, something that's, about 50 pages at least, up to 300 pages. And that's a bit of a project, and that's not something you do just in a month, or not something you do in a weekend. These other things that we talked about so far, you could do, in a weekend or in a week, or you could plan it in a short time. But putting a book together or being included in a book, boy, that makes a tremendous difference. When you become published, even if it's a workbook that you could do, I can think of, almost every one of you on this call that introduced yourselves. I bet you could come up with several tip sheets and several resources that you could put together. Maybe some of you speak regularly in public. You could put together a series of those speeches, title them, and have yourself a nice workbook that could retail anywhere from $29 to $79 and sometimes even more. It would be, probably 75 to 125 pages. It's going to take a little bit of work. But if you have the wherewithal to get published, I'll tell you what, it makes a tremendous difference. You will find yourself frequently requested to be a speaker and more requested to give input. How do you feel about it when you go to a networking lunch or a chamber event, and somebody says, and let me introduce you to so-and-so who's written this book on business or who's written this book on healthcare. Don't you kind of go, oh, wow, nice to meet you? Makes a difference. I think everybody listening on this call tonight is talented enough to write their book. You might need to get some help in some areas, but not all of us have the stubbornness, I think, to stick it through, or the energy or whatever. But if you can plan that into your calendar, I can tell you that will really tremendously make a difference in positioning yourself as an expert. Is it absolutely necessary? Absolutely not. You do not have to do all 6 of these items to be an expert. But, I want you to pick at least 2 of them, okay? So that's number 4. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Can we start off maybe in baby steps? I know all of us in all of our industries have certain publications, just magazine publications or medical journals, or in our case, that maybe we're just being published as, a 2-page article or something. Would that also be
absolutely
kind of a basic?
That's from back on step number 2. Writing those. You always begin, and we're all growing our businesses in baby steps, right? But we're constantly growing, because don't you think, Karen, you never are in a place in your business where you just stop, right? We're constantly improving or changing. None of us are doing the same thing that we were doing probably last year at this time, certainly not 2 years ago. We've changed or added or adapted something. So always start with baby steps, but always keep on growing. Okay, so if you are just at the point now where you're just writing an article maybe for your alumni magazine or your chamber, great. Keep that, put it on your website, and then, in a couple months, add something else to it. So, yes, you don't need to start out by writing a book. Obviously, it's something you need to work up on. But I do want you to know that it doesn't have to be a book. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 300-page, 27-chapter book. Booklets, tip sheets. I mean, my goodness, I have on my desk, where is it? I can't remember the title of it, and I hand it out all the time. But it's by Mark LeBlanc, who's from the National Speakers Association. It's something like Grow Your Business. I'm telling you what, it must be it's under 50 pages. And it costs like $8, and it's one of those books that, men can put in their pocket, women can put in their purse. I think he sells it for $7.99. It is clearly not a novel. But it's a bunch of tips with some really good pictures and some nice quotations, that he did to get published. He did it pretty quickly, but he was sharing these tips for years before he pulled them together. But what I really want to stress here, it doesn't have to be a big novel. So I hope you guys all get that. Okay? Does that help?
Yeah,
does that take the anxiety out of it a little bit? Okay. Number 5, let me just recap for a second here. Number 1 in positioning yourself as an expert was education and certification. Number 2 is becoming a resource for your clients. Number 3 is to be featured in the news or media. Number 4 is writing about your expertise. And number 5 is speaking about your expertise. So once you've written a few of those things, like you said, the 2-page articles, you want to speak about your expertise. And Karen, when I work with clients now, I tell them that they have to pick 3 to 5 things that they're going to speak about. Now, some of my clients are very, very niche. So it might be the same talk, but it might have 3 different titles, so it appeals to 3 different audiences. But I like them to have 3 to 5 things that they can talk about. And we're not talking about 2.5-hour conference presentations. We're talking about, 20 to 35-minute business presentations that they can give. And I do work my clients. Anybody that's worked with me knows that it requires a lot of energy to work with me. But we get a lot of growth, right? But we want to change that every year. So we want to say, our 2010 topics. 2010 speaking about this, 1, 2, 3. And then in September of 2010, I'm going to work with that client and say, okay, what are you going to talk about in 2011? People are planning next year. We always want to be ready. So speaking about what you're an expertise in, but always polishing that up, because if you go speak for a large business association in June of 2010 and they call you in June of 2012, they don't want to hear that you're speaking about the same topic. They want to learn more. They want to learn something different. So you want to speak about your expertise and always try to be on the cutting edge, okay? And I want you guys to put yourself out there, whether it's on a teleseminar just like tonight, or some people do webinars, or it's at a chamber event, or you're flying and traveling around, whatever you love to do. Now, some of you are going to tell me, no way, not going to happen. I don't speak in public. You know what? That's okay. Don't do that one. Do the other ones instead. But if you can, I can tell you that a lot of my clients, when we sit down and we say, hey, how are you? What are the 4 ways that you want to get business this year? You can get a lot of clients and a lot of referrals, because you know what? You're standing up in front of your target audience. Hopefully, you're speaking in front of your target audience. How can you ever get yourself up there and put yourself up for who you are and what you offer in front of 20 to 50 people who are your ideal clients? Isn't that a brilliant use of your time? So, but if you can't speak and if it gives you anxiety, then there are lots of other ways to do it. But if you can, please take advantage of it. Okay?
Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay. And my last one is client testimonials. And Karen, don't you agree that you can sit in front of a potential client and you can tell them how wonderful you are? None of us are really good at that. But if somebody else says, you know what, hey, I use the Caring Mission and oh my goodness, they're amazing. Isn't it really that what sells you?
Oh, absolutely.
People like that third-person endorsements, right? Why do all of those infomercials use celebrity endorsements? Because they work. Because when somebody says, you know what, I drank that blue water and I lost 62 pounds in 2 days, we're like, oh, well, if she did it, I can do it, even though it makes absolutely no sense and it's never going to happen. People believe other people. They absolutely, and of course I'm exaggerating to make a point, but people do believe and trust in other people. So your client referrals, and I'm sure you all would agree with this, clients who come to you as the result of a referral are usually really good clients. They come with you because they come to you ready to work. They know what you do. They know what they need. Getting clients from referrals is a fantastic way to get business. It really requires the least amount of work because somebody else has recommended you. So when I say a client testimonial, what I really mean is a client recommendation. You want to be a little bit careful about these because, of course, it's easy for somebody to say, well, thank you very much. It was great working with you. And, that's technically a testimonial. We want to kind of pull from these happy clients what it was about working with you that made it so good. You know what? Sometimes that's kind of tough to do. And a lot of times when I begin working with a client, I will actually call their customers and I'll ask them for testimonials because it's easier for them to talk to somebody they don't know and say how wonderful somebody is. Sometimes it just takes that awkwardness out of it. But when I ask for testimonials for clients, I say things like, well, you know what changed in your business as a result of doing business with this person? Or how did working with this person improve your business or your life? Or what did they do for you? What do they offer that you just cannot live without, that you will never live without? I try to pull out some really great things. And, like I said, this sometimes isn't easy to get out of people, but here's an easy way to do it. The next time somebody calls you on the phone or says something to you in person like, Karen, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, your nurse's aide that has been working with my mother is just amazing. I don't know how I could have got through the last 6 weeks without her. When they're talking to you like that, if it's appropriate at that time, depending on the moment, you can say, you know what, that is really sweet, and I know she would love to hear it. Do you mind if I repeat that? Can I take that down? Most of the time they'll say, of course. Okay? Sometimes, as particularly with me, when I throw an event, I'm very, very fortunate, and I love this, so keep doing it. I get email thank yous. After the class with you, I learned this. You know what, and I have to tell you that sometimes I read books, business books or marketing books or publicity books, and it's so easy now to reach people either through LinkedIn or Facebook or through their website. and I'll shoot somebody an email, and I'll say, you know what, thank you so very much. In my book is I Wish I'd Known That. And I took some classes from some marketing people, and it gave me the courage to write that book. And for two of them that tremendously made a difference, I put my book and I wrapped it up in a box and put a ribbon on it, and I sent it to them with a card and said, you know what, you really gave me the courage to take this step. You know, that means a lot to the people because sometimes they have no idea that they had an influence on you. So it's really nice when you get those, and when they send you an email or they send you a card and you call them up to thank them and let them know you got it, you can say, you know what, this was a really nice thing that you said. Do you mind if can I put this on my website? Can I use this in my marketing material? You know, that's the easiest way to get it. You don't have to call. So definitely using client testimonials. You know, almost all of us on the call are on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has that, you know, recommend a person. That's a really easy way. Some people, some of my clients that don't have any testimonials, I say, do you have a LinkedIn page? And I'll go check it out. And I say, you know what, as a matter of fact, you have several testimonials on here that they're not even aware of. So it's becoming more easy. But I think if you all are aware of how important testimonials are, that you guys will kind of have your radar up and just be sort of aware and to collect them. And I'm just going to give you a very quick example. I spoke at Slippery Rock. Well, first I spoke at Teal University, which is a small university. I had a friend that worked there. And I went up and I spoke in their publicity department. And I put that on my website. She sent me well, it was my first time speaking at a university. So she asked me, she said, I don't have any money, but will you come up and do this for me? And I said, of course. She was a friend of mine. And I said, but will you write me a thank you? So I put the thank you on. Well, you know what? About, 4 to 6 weeks after that, Slippery Rock University said, I saw that you were speaking at Teal University. Would you like to come up and talk to our business department? You know, so it helps people because they might not even be aware that you do that. So if you are one of those people that wants to do speaking as a way to market your business, when you go and speak at a business organization and you get a thank you note, put that in your marketing materials because then another business organization might say, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that you spoke. Can you speak for our group? So those client testimonials are very effective.
Now let me ask you, Beth, how do you feel about employee testimonials? I mean, I know a lot of times, especially, consumers looking in at our business, if they see our employees as happy and the culture where they're going out and doing, good things in the community and they're talking about how the company has affected their lives for a positive and vice versa, how do you feel about that for that topic for employee testimonials?
Gosh, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think that's fantastic, and I think it's extremely rare that you have employees that are positive and enthusiastic. The first thing, though, as a public relations person, I couldn't help but think this. The first thing that I thought of, though, Karen, was like an award, giving some recognition award, either, having the employee nominate the company for recognition or vice versa. But testimonials, I'm not really picturing what they would say, but certainly if an employee said, I really love working for this company and I wouldn't leave. Even if I were offered more money, I wouldn't leave. Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic testimonial. Well, not only does that look good for, people who might be considering to use you for service, but certainly somebody who might have high qualifications and it's important to them to work for a really decent company. It's going to help you to attract better employees. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
Great.
Okay, so shall I review one more time before we get done here? I wanted to spend 5 minutes on each item, but I think I went a little bit over. I hope you guys don't mind. But let me just repeat really quickly. One thing is we want to remember that we want to become an expert because we want to position ourselves in a way that makes you irresistible to do business with. Imagine somebody comes to our website, or imagine yourself going to a website, looking over a person and thinking, you know what, I think I might like to do that, but I'm not really sure right now. But then you see a testimonial from somebody that maybe has the same problem that you have. Before I worked with Susie, I had no time because I was spending all of my time balancing my books. I was spending 20 hours a week balancing my books. Now, she's taking care of that, and I'm free to build my business. And since then, our business has grown. Now, wouldn't that go, you know what, I'm not going to wait any longer. Let me go ahead and sign up for this bookkeeping service. Okay, so positioning yourself an expert, using those testimonials and all these other things, make yourself irresistible. Okay, make that be the thing that just says, you know what, I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And secondly, because now the media knows that they can call on you when they need someone to give a comment or give any input. So we want to use our number one, education and certifications, being a resource, being featured in the news or media, writing and speaking about our expertise, and using client testimonials. So I hope that this is really helpful for you guys. And if you are going to get out there and write or speak or record yourself, please keep me in the loop and let me know what you're doing. And I want to give you a little reminder, because I like to give people inspirational tips. And my little tip for tonight is, this is anonymous, one of those quotes that have been going around forever and ever. There's no telling how many miles you have to run when chasing your dream. So please keep your chins up and keep your nose to the grindstone and keep on going. And I would really love to see all of you in the media soon. Thanks so much, Karen, for having me.
Thank you, Beth. This was excellent. I didn't expect anything less. I hope we all go out and use these tips. And one day, I hope you're getting 2 or 3 or at least 4 books from some of the folks that were on this call, wrapped up in a bow at your door.
Oh, thank you. I would love that. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, you have a great, great evening, and enjoy, and to success for everyone. Okay? Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.